In this video, I'm going to demonstrate Verso's student feedback form. With the new reality of remote learning, it's never been more important to provide students with opportunities to, one, reflect on their learning, but two, to share their perspectives on what's working and what's not working. So student voice and maintaining close relationships with our students has never been more important. So I've gone to Verso and I've got two options when I go to my class. I can engage students in collaborative learning and build an activity, or what I want to do at the moment is check in on my students' progress and well-being. So I just tick on that box there, and when I do that, it gives me a quick insight into the process, which is to create the feedback form by adding my learning intention. Ask students to respond to that form and have a look at the data that will appear in my user homepage, and then review that data to look for trends and identify next steps both for students and for me in terms of my practice. So I've got that, so I'm going to continue. So the first thing I need to do is just paste in my learning objective. Got that for my planning, in it goes. Now I need to select a prompt and a way that I want my students to reflect on their learning that's going to give me the visibility on their learning that I require to move them forward. So I can just type one in there, which might be contextual, or I can choose one from a list here. And this list, for people who are familiar with the tool, has recently updated to support students with working from home. So I'm going to ask my students to respond to the learning objective, but I also want them to think about setting goals for working from home. So I'll choose that one there. Now, what the students will see, if I click on the button here, I'll see the form that's been generated and sent to students. So the learning objective, there it is, because once students reflect, they need to see what they're reflecting on. Then the students can self-assess as to where they think they are. And based on the selection they've made, they'll be given a second prompt. So if I'm confused, then the students need to say what they'd like some more help with. At the next point, they then reflect on the prompt that I gave them, the reflection prompt. This one was straight out of Verso, which was ask them to set goals for themselves that will help them working from home. When they've done that, they're invited to select one of 10 options as to what they'd like more of from me as their teacher. So they can choose one of these, and again, we've adapted this list for remote learning. So I'll select that one, and then they have to give us 2 adjectives that describe their emotional state. Now, once I'm satisfied with that, close that and I hit create form, and that then gets sent to the class ready for my students. 2-minute creation, it's really important. We want students to do this frequently with students, to constantly check the temperature of the class, if you like. So it needs to be quick, it needs to be easy, and what that can provide me with is insights in a dashboard like this one. Now this dashboard, it has been anonymized, so I can show you student outcomes. Now obviously for the teacher will see the names of their students. So the first thing I get is the student self-assessment. So I can have a look at this. So red for students that are confused, yellow for students that have self-assessed as almost having met the requirements of the learning objective, and green for those who think that they've hit that I've got it moment. So I can just click on any of these data points and I can see what that student's saying. And obviously, as a teacher, I will see student names up here, and I'll also see how they've responded to the previous 5 feedback forms. So I can start to look for trends over time with individual students. So you can see here that students, the learning objective is to understand covalent bonding. This student hasn't quite got it because he still needs to, and this is the student's self-assessment. Now, the prompt they were given for this particular activity was explain what covalent bonding is, so a contextual prompt. Students put their first go at explanation in there, so as a teacher I can see any misconceptions or ideas that they're sharing, and then they've told me that they'd actually value some clear instructions on what they need to do and how the work will be assessed, and then I can see their emotional state. Now, moving across to the emotional response, where the student selected those 2 adjectives to describe how they're feeling, I can go into any of these 4 quadrants and I can have a look at 2 students here who are feeling tired, and again, just clicking through, I can see which students they are and I can see some of the problems they're having. The final data set is those preferred strategies. those things that the students are asking the teacher directly for more of. These are the things the students are telling me would absolutely support their learning going forward. So for this particular activity, you can see 3, 4, 5 students, including a student who's confused, are saying what would help them is if I gave them examples of what they needed to do to be successful. So giving them clearly communicated success criteria. These students are asking the teacher for clarity so that they can move their learning forward. They want clearly communicated time frames. So the first bunch of students here are all asking for very similar things. Clear instructions on what they need to do and how it will be assessed. Another group of students. Now, for each of these data points as the teacher, I also get prompts as to what I might do based on that data to, one, make the data more reliable, but secondly, things I can do to actually use that data to bring me closer to my students and my students closer to the learning. So each of these, just those quick drop downs, are questions that as a teacher I need to ask myself about my practice and what I need to do next. Now at a class level, if I just go down the page now, I can filter this and I can just say, show me the students who've self-assessed as almost having got there. And up they come. So now I can start to look at patterns, and that tells me what I need to do for each of those students to move the learning forward. So it moves me into a zone where I'm capable of personalising the learning experience of those students, albeit in class or remotely. Now the final aspect of this process, if I just go back to a class, is if I'm thinking about remote learning and what that looks like for me and my students, if I edit my class, I can set a professional focus. So from the list here, I'm going to now switch to remote learning. That will give me an overview of what this looks like in the classroom. If I save that, whenever I'm working in this class with the students, it will be able to meet a link at the top here to learn more about my selected focus. It will tell me what the key elements of remote learning look like for myself and my students. And as the teacher, it will also give me success criteria, so things I need to look for, things I need to do, what it looks like for my students in order to make remote learning as successful a reality as possible in and outside of my classroom.